All right, everybody, Big Screen Bearcon here, and I am with Rebecca Hartman, who is in the cast of Anastasia, the national tour. I am so excited to be talking to you, and I'm so excited to see the show next week when it comes to Dallas.
Yes, we're so excited to come.
Awesome. How long have you guys been touring so far?
So, the tour's been going for 2 years. I've been here since August of 2022.
Wow, that is a long time. So, how often do you guys perform every week?
Usually 8 times a week, sometimes more.
Jeez, 8 times a week. I cannot imagine doing the same show 8 times a week for like what? How many months has it been? 8 months? That
Yeah.
is wild. So, how do you keep things fresh for yourself and keep yourself engaged when you're on stage?
So I'm a swing, which means that I'm not on every night and I
Mhm.
cover 9 different tracks. So for me, it's a little bit easier because it's always kind of, I'm always on my toes. It's never the same. But for a lot of my colleagues who are on every night, they will sometimes like pick a theme for the day. And when they're ad libbing on stage, they'll be ad libbing with an accent or whatever to, kind of keep it fun, keep it spicy.
Yeah, that is awesome. 9 different tracks. So, do you literally wake up one morning not, or wake up in the morning not knowing what role you're going to go on for that night?
Yeah, it's crazy. Sometimes I'm not on at all, and then the next day I'll be on for a lead, and the next day I'm on for a dancer track, and then a singer track, and you just never know what you're gonna get.
That's so I could never imagine. That's so impressive. So, say for example, when you go, do you go on as Anna occasionally sometimes, right? Anya?
Yes, Anya.
So, how do you develop the character when you can't consistently play as her? So, how do you find new ways to put your own take on it?
Well, that's a great question. For me, I spent a lot of time before I ever even started rehearsing Anya, just reading the script and finding what she means to me. There are certain moments in the show where there's a lot of different ways you can interpret what she says. And for me, the drive for Anya is to find out who she is. So even when it comes to the end, spoiler alert, when Gleb is pointing the gun at her and she's worried for her life, but when it comes down to it, he asks her who she is, and she finally knows. And all she ever wanted was to know who she is. So a lot of it was work that I did on my own. And then we had some rehearsals that I got to do with a Dimitri and with a Vlad, and that helped, kind of develop those characters. But every time I go on, it can be a different combination of Dimitris and Vlads. So, it's different every time. It's always fresh, it's always new. But yeah.
That's so cool. And like I said, I think it's the most impressive thing in the world. I think swings have the hardest role in any show, no matter what it is. If it's on Broadway, if it's on tour, it is so impressive to me. So
Thank you.
congratulations to you for all your success. You mentioned finding certain moments in the show that really kind of help you along. Is there anything that about Anastasia that really surprised you before you came into this? Or I'm sorry, not before,
Mm.
but while you've been performing, has anything surprised you?
Oh, interesting. Well, I grew up on the movie, so I knew the premise of the story. I knew some of the songs. Um, but I think one of the biggest differences between the movie and the musical, which I discovered while being on this tour, is the relationship between Anya and Gleb. Because
Hmm.
Gleb is not in the movie. In the movie, it's
Right.
Rasputin. So the relationship is very different. And there's kind of a little bit of a love aspect where he's, kind of fallen for her and his job is to kill her. And so it's kind of a really tricky relationship, but I have really enjoyed getting to dive into that and what it means to her and how the way that he acts like affects her in her journey. So I think that would be probably the thing that like surprised me the most is I wasn't expecting to find so much in that relationship, but there's a lot there. It's a very complex relationship.
Yeah, definitely. I remember I saw Anastasia for the first time a few years ago, the Broadway show, or the Broadway show when it toured to Dallas the first time. And I had never seen the movie, so I went in totally blind. And that was my actually what you just said, my favorite part of the entire show. I thought that was such a fresh and unique thing that you don't always see very often. Typically, if
Yeah.
you do see it, it's flipped, where maybe the villain is the one who the main character is kind of seeing the light in and falling in love with, and something like that. It's
Right.
never really the other way around. So I thought
Mhm.
that was so cool, and because of that. I don't think I could ever go back and see the original movie because I know it's
Ah,
different. I just feel like, I've already kind of seen the peak version of it. I don't know if I
right,
can go
right.
back and, see the original, but maybe one of these days I will.
Well, if there's one incentive to watch it, it would be the Bat Bartok.
The bat,
He is
yep.
not in the musical for obvious reasons, but he is the best part of the movie. So if that's any incentive to watch it, you're missing
Okay.
out on Bartok.
Maybe I'll do it for Bartok. Maybe. I'll see. Maybe when I see the show on Tuesday in Dallas, it'll inspire me to really, truly dive in.
There you go.
Um, that's awesome. So let's see. We talked about that. So was there a moment for you that really, truly said, okay, I need to be performing for the rest of my life. This is what I need to do. I'd love to learn more about your background.
Oh yeah. So I was a figure skater until I was 10, and I had kind of planned to go into that. But then my family moved to Tennessee. I was originally from New York. We moved to Tennessee, and there was no rink. So I couldn't keep skating. And I was like, well, I was like 10 years old at this point. So I was kind of like flighty and like, I could do something else. And one day, this girl that I had become friends with was like, I'm going to this theater camp tomorrow. You should sign up and come with me. And I was like, okay, that sounds fun. I want friends. I just moved here. So I went to this theater camp, and I literally have not done anything else since. I was 10 years old. I fell in love with it. And it took a little bit of convincing from my parents. So by the time I was 13, I got my first lead in Pinkalicious the musical.
Wow.
Yes. And I was like, Mom and Dad, I want to do this for my life. This is all I've ever wanted to do. I'm done. This is it. And they were like, okay, like maybe she'll change her mind, but like we'll support her. And then by the time I was 15, I started competing in vocal competitions and stuff. And I started to win a little bit. And my dad was like, okay, I'm on board now. So by the time I was 15, everybody was on board. And yeah, I went to college for musical theater, and I graduated last May. And now here I am.
Oh, congratulations. Where'd you graduate from?
Webster University in St. Louis.
Awesome. That's so cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's funny how a lot of people kind of sometimes you either start with theater from the get-go or sometimes later in life it just kind of drags you in. Or maybe not drags you, but pulls you in. I was the same way as you. I played basketball all my life, and I thought, basketball was going to be it. And then my freshman year of high school, I got hurt. And then I was like, well, can't really do this anymore. And theater was like, hey, come on, we're doing Sweeney Todd. It'll be fun.
Come join us.
I haven't looked back since. I've always loved it ever since that first day of rehearsal. So I totally relate with everything you just said. Is there a part now outside of the show, is there a part of being on tour that you really, really love and that will probably make you do it again?
Oh yeah, I'm hoping to do another tour after this one. I kind of moved around a lot. Like I mentioned earlier, I lived in New York, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, Pennsylvania, and Missouri. So I've kind of moved around a lot in my life. And I'm very comfortable with the idea of my home being the people that I'm with and the environment that I'm in, and not being a certain place. And I found that on tour, I'm able to kind of, dive into that a little bit. I take my home with me. I like the idea of not being, set in one place. Maybe that's because I moved so much, so I'm not used to it. But I like getting to move around so much and explore different thrift stores and cities and different food and meet different people. I just think that tour life itself is an experience that I will cherish forever. And I'd love to do it again.
I love that so much. That's such a wholesome, genuine answer. Thank you so much for your time today. Anastasia is at AT&T Performing Arts Center at the Winspear Opera House in Dallas starting April 4th. I will be there. I cannot wait to see you and your entire cast perform and tell this beautiful story. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, of course. Thanks for having me. This was so fun.
Awesome. And really quick, one last note. If you want to follow Rebecca Hartman's journey, you can follow her on TikTok, Instagram at Rebecca Hartman Official. So be sure to do that.